Welcome back, everybody. You might be able to tell by the sun on my face, it is morning now. We're back with a little bit more energy, and we are here at Chickamauga. You're with the American Battlefield Trust. I'm Gary Edelman. That's Chris White behind the camera there, and we have already spent a good deal of time on this battlefield exploring what happened on September 18th and on September 19th, 1863. On the 18th, the Confederates pushed against the bridges, eventually crossing Chickamauga Creek. On the 19th, there's going to be just terrible fighting all over the battlefield, but much of it is going off over my right shoulder in those woods and way behind me down the Lafayette Road here. And as the 20th comes on, the armies are assembled. James Longstreet is here in command. There's going to be a famous action going on more than a mile to the south here. But we're standing over near the visitor center. It is about 400 yards behind the camera there. And there is a lot of important stuff happening on this part of the battlefield, namely a massive attack by John Cable Breckinridge. So to talk about that, let's bring on our good friend Jim Ogden, historian, Chickamauga, Chattanooga, NMP.
Good morning, Gary, and
Thanks,
I'm glad you did not emulate William Rosecrans last night by pacing in the yard of headquarters until daylight. You got some sleep.
That's actually how I sleep, but
good.
different story.
Okay, so. Well, good morning, everyone. And as Gary said, we are here on the Union left on the morning of September the 20th. Overnight, after a council of war at the Widow Glens, the Union leadership, Rosecrans, Thomas, McCook, and Crittenden, had made the decision to stay and fight on this ground, but they would do so on the defensive, and they pulled back close to the corridor of the Lafayette Road. And would continue to defend their route back to Chattanooga, this critical Lafayette Road, but they would do so from defensive positions that they would develop. And those positions had begun to develop even before dark on September the 19th, and throughout now the night of the 19th and the early morning hours of the 20th. As dawn approaches, George Thomas is riding around here on the John McDonald farm, looking at how to better protect the Union left. He gets Rosecrans to come up here as well. They are making some adjustments. They're hoping to be able to extend the line further to the north to protect this vital road, the wartime road back to McFarland Gap and Missionary Ridge, one of their potential ways off of the battlefield should they need to withdraw. And James Negley's division is being moved up here, and some of you all will know the movement of Negley's division plays a role in the course of the action on the 20th, associated with that gap that's going to be opened in the Union line later in the morning. These adjustments by the Union are being made at the same time that they are expecting the Confederates to attack them at day dawn, the first bit of daylight. But as the light began to appear in the forest that morning, there is no Confederate attack. Bragg and his fractured leadership are not prepared to launch a day-dawn in echelon by division from right to left attack as Bragg had ordered. And in fact, it is going to be more than 3 hours after daylight before the first Confederate attack is launched. The orders have to be, the day-dawn attack orders have to filter down that new chain of command, as well as the order for the reorganization of the Army. And the two divisions that were supposed to open the attack, the divisions of Daniel Harvey Hill's corps of Bragg's army, now subordinated to Leonidas Polk, the right-wing commander. The divisions of John Cable Breckinridge and Patrick Claiborne do not know of the dawn attack orders, and when at dawn with no orders the food for yesterday arrives, the order is feed the soldiers, and the men will begin to eat, and by the time they have consumed their rations for the 19th and get formed up, more than 3 hours of daylight pass. But while the Confederate attack is more than 3 hours behind schedule, and the Federals have had now 3 hours of daylight to further strengthen their positions, when Breckinridge's division attacked, about 3,600 men under the command of that former Vice President of the United States, most of Breckinridge's division is deployed north of where the true Union left flank was. In the woods just to the southeast of where we are right now, to the southeast of the Kentucky Monument, the tall shaft you see along the Lafayette Road there, is the true left end of the Union line. Thomas was hoping to extend it further to the north, but at the moment of the attack, the real left began there in that block of woods. And Breckinridge's brigades of Dan Adams, Louisianans and Alabamans, and Marcellus Stovall, Floridians, North Carolinians, and Georgians, and half of the Kentucky Orphan Brigade under Benjamin Hardin Helm. When they attack, they come westward and actually reach and cross the Lafayette Road in this area, driving off the small part of Negley's division, John Beatty's brigade that was here, the right half of Helm's brigade, capturing the two guns of the Bridges, Illinois battery, and then they turn south to move towards the true left end of the line. This attack, exactly what Rosecrans and Thomas and McCook and Crittenden feared might be the case. If the Confederates are successful here, they could cut the route to the for the Union Army back to Chattanooga. This attack puts tremendous stress on the leadership of the Army of the Cumberland, particularly the sleep-deprived William Stark Rosecrans, and as Breckinridge's division, or the brigades of Adams and Stovall, drive towards, and for Stovall even into, the north end of the Kelly Field, the events begin to unfold associated with the turning point of the battle, that movement of Wood's division and the attack by James Longstreet on the Brotherton farm that we'll visit in a short time. But this pressure by Breckinridge is what is weighing on the sleep-deprived William Stark Rosecrans as the morning progresses on September the 20th.
Great. Thanks, Jim. What an extraordinary moment this is. I mean, just imagine that your lifeline toward Chattanooga, is in this direction. All of a sudden, the Confederates, literally pour across this road and threaten your flank and threaten to cut you off. I want to show you this visually a little bit here. You can see Breckinridge's soldiers lined up, clearly outlapping the Union line, and they are going into this field, and this is where we stand right now, and they are going to push down and get into the flank and rear of the Union Army. But you see that the Union is going to muster some reinforcements. Armies are durable things. It is not easy to destroy an army of 60,000 people. But before we bring Jim back on here, because I know he has more thoughts about this, you might wonder, about this book. We've talked about it a little bit, Battle Maps of the Civil War. Some of you often write and say, hey, I want one of these hoodies, these preserve hoodies, or these cool windbreakers, or, excuse me, this didn't go as planned, a cool beanie or a fleece or otherwise, cups, mugs, and whatnot. You can get all that at battlefields.org/shop, where, although there's some COVID issues with sizing, be patient with us, and we'd love if you could proudly wear all of your American Battlefield Trust stuff. So thank you for enduring this commercial, everybody. Back to you, Jim.
Well, Breckinridge's attack will reach its high water mark at about 11. The time of Rosecrans' fateful order to Thomas J. Wood is 10:45. Now, those times are perhaps not exact. There was no standard or centralized time or any real source to regulate clocks or watches by, but what it illustrates is just how critical this assault is. What we know today is being made by just a small Confederate division, but for Rosecrans and George Thomas in particular, they can only assume that perhaps it is the very beginning of a major Confederate attack. Perhaps there was some massed formation in this area, like what we'll see with Longstreet further south along the line. The Union line, as that had been formed overnight and in the early morning hours, was actually a line of lines, a defense in depth, multiple lines of troops. In fact, the Union Army, using Casey's tactics as their principal guidance for maneuver on the battlefields, they have 2, 3, even 4 lines of troops. And with the understanding by Union leaders down the chain of command of the importance of maintaining this route back to Chattanooga, the Union response to this threat by Breckinridge is rapid. By many leaders at different levels, even individual battery captains and commanders of regiments, turning their troops from their reserve positions and into the effort to first stop and then throw Breckinridge's attack back. And not to give too much away, but Breckinridge's attack will be being repulsed at the very moment of the turning point on the battle further south along this line that we'll see on the Brotherton Farm in just a little bit. But when you visit Chickamauga and read about this battle, don't underestimate the importance of this attack on the morning of September the 20th. And so, Gary, I'll turn it back over to you as we prepare to move on in the story. We'll kind of leave Breckinridge's men here in the height as we stand amongst the guns of the 5th Company of the Washington Artillery.
Good. And as we stand among the guns, I'm going to turn it over to Chris Mackowski, Emerging Civil War.
And, this is a great spot in the battlefield, and the story that Jim's been telling us is kind of underappreciated because attention does turn to Longstreet's breakthrough and Snodgrass Hill and the Rock of Chickamauga, but this is important to understand that this is what makes those things happen. And it's a really easy spot to visit. The Visitor Center is just behind Chris White on the camera over there. We're here among the Washington Artillery, as Jim said, the Florida Monument just to the other side of the road. Beautiful monument, especially here at sunrise. We're getting a nice little backstop from the sun and the monument there, and the Kentucky Memorial behind us there. And so this is a great spot to stop and visit. Understanding Breckinridge's role in this attack is really important too, because it is one of the most tantalizing what-ifs of the entire battle. Because what if the attack had gone forward as it was supposed to earlier in the day? But understanding that Breckinridge has only been with this army for about a month. He had been sent off to help Joe Johnson out around Jackson and Vicksburg earlier in the summer. Before that, he'd been with this army and had a very tumultuous relationship with Bragg that dates all the way back to Perryville. They had problems with Murfreesboro. Bragg has barely got his army under control because his whole high command is nearly mutinous. Add to that mix, let's bring in the very congenial, cordial, friendly D.H. Hill, who gets along with everybody. And so he's now in the mix. And so if we look at where Breckinridge is in the organizational structure, he's one of 2 divisions underneath Hill, who's underneath Polk. All of those guys get along with Bragg so well, don't they? And so we can see that the chemistry in the Confederate High Command is such that it's almost a preordained recipe for disaster. So we have to look at that context as we look at this attack and why it does or doesn't unfold the way it happens. But because it does unfold when it does, things in the southern end of the field are going to turn extremely tumultuous for Bragg and for Rosecrans. And this battle is going to unfold as it has been for 2 days. It's going to unfold in unexpected ways. They're going to be fighting a battle that they didn't expect to be fighting in a way they haven't expected to fight it. We've been hearing about that this whole trip. We're going to find out more as we head further south down the field. I want to thank Jim for all his help. I want to thank Dr. Hodges, who's over here giving us a little moral support and cheering us on, Chris White behind the camera, Gary Edelman, and you for allowing us to be here and sharing these fascinating stories. Thanks so much for all you do, and thanks for supporting Battlefield Preservation.